My married name is Barbara Cohen. The date of my birth is September 10th, 1941. I was born in Poland, which is the small town is now part of the Ukraine. My parents are Jean and Philip Schechter. My mother's maiden name was Jean Hirsch. And my dad was very lucky to graduate from the university in Krakow, because when Hitler came into power, he established the Nuremberg laws, and Jews could no longer go to public schools. And he graduated as a lawyer, which helped save our lives, by the way. And my mother, she was born in Stanislavov, and if I didn't mention, my dad was born in Krakow. Stanislavov is also now part of the Ukraine, and she was a bookkeeper. So the war started in 1939, so I was 2. The ghetto that we were in, I really get confused whether it was in the Krakow ghetto or in the ghetto where my mother was in Stanislavov, but I think it was in the Krakow ghetto. The Nuremberg laws were established when Hitler became chancellor in 1933. There were hundreds of laws that made the lives of Jews unbearable. And one of the laws was that Jews could no longer go to public schools. And therefore, my dad was very lucky to just get under the wire and graduate as a lawyer, because that helped save our lives. My dad had help from his people, from his class, to get papers that we were Polish Catholics, and our new name was Rogolska and no more Schechter. I don't think we were in the ghetto that long, because I have photos, and because I have no memory of the war, I was too young, I just surmised how long. But I'd say maybe 6 months in the ghetto. As far as what happened after the ghetto, when we escaped, my dad was a tutor for a farmer in the area for his children. And he decided that we were going to go to the farmer and beg to be hidden. And he did that. And the wife of the farmer did not want to keep us, because anyone that was caught helping Jews, they would be taken instantly to the concentration camp or shot on the spot. And with the understanding that we wouldn't stay long, because a couple of days later, there was a knock on the door, and a Nazi was there. He probably got a tip that Jews were on the premises and they were going to inspect. So the farmer, after that incident, gave us food, clothing, and we were on our way. That was the point where they didn't know what to do. And but they had their papers, their false papers, and they decided to split up during the war, that my mother and I would go in one direction, my dad would stay in Poland as a Polish worker under the auspices of the Poles, not the Germans. So we were taken by this truck with other workers, Catholic, and my mother had many different jobs as a laborer on a farm, but I was still young and she needed to feed me and take care of me, and she was fired from many jobs. Fortunately, this German woman heard about her plight and she offered to take care of me, and she treated me like, I think, her own. I think I was there for about 2 years, something like that. Told my mother no more visits. And my mother begged for one more visit because she had a plan, and it was also towards the end of the war, which was a godsend, actually. And when she came for that last visit, she asked if she could take me for a walk. She asked if she could take me for a walk, and she just picked me up and ran. We wanted to win the war, and we ended up in a displaced persons camp in Stuttgart, in Germany. And that's where my dad found us. My dad was a laborer. I'm not sure which town, could have been Krakow where he was born, but he had a very close call. Somebody told the Gestapo there's a Jew there. We had a lot of miracles, I'd say.
Your dad, somebody tipped them off that your dad was a Jew.
That there was a Jew.
How would they know?
Well, other Poles can recognize something maybe about the Jewish face. My dad did not have a long nose. He spoke perfect Polish. But there must have been someone, because there were collaborators, many collaborators during the war. People, like my dad told me, that were there, doctors, dentists, teachers. They too collaborated and went to the Gestapo and said there was a Jew living next to me or whatever, or hiding.
Did they sometimes turn people in that way that they just didn't like, or did they usually have some evidence of some sort, they thought?
I think that as far as why they turned them in, that maybe they themselves would get some benefit with more food or something like that. And there was, unfortunately, a lot of anti-Semitism in Poland and in Europe. However, there was the farmer that saved our lives, that knew that we were Jewish. If Sophie knew we were Jewish, I don't know what would have happened. So the DP camp was located in Stuttgart, Germany. And since we were the first people, refugees, to get on the ship, the Marine Flasher, I don't think we must have been there less than a year, and my mother thought they were gods. So we were very lucky that we were the first ones, because some of those DP camps were the same places where Jews were incarcerated during the war, not that one. And they weren't treated very well there. I think my first memory was living in Williamsburg on the 5th floor with other refugees. Probably around 5 years old. And my dad and my mother saved all that money and opened up a produce store. And they lost everything, and a friend of theirs from the war lived in Detroit and said that they would help us, and that's how we got to Detroit, Michigan. They had a cousin that lived in, it was a cousin on my mother's side that sponsored us, and that's how we came. I was 11. The ones who helped my family were not the cousins. They were in New Jersey. They stayed there. I think they helped in the beginning, but it's unbelievable. Ukrainian friends of theirs that actually helped them during the war. So now my father still had no money, and eventually he had some odd jobs, and we had enough to move to apartment on our own, and he became a waiter in Detroit, and my mother became a manicurist. And with their income, they were able to exist. But he could not go back to college because he didn't have enough money. But he built himself up. He saved all his money. And when I started my college in Ann Arbor, he became a real estate broker, and then he was doing very well and bought some student housing himself. I went to 2 colleges, Wayne State. My parents, insisted that I have a college education, and so I saw this movie in high school, not movie, but documentary about physical therapists, and that's what I studied. Wayne didn't have physical therapy, so my last 2.5 years were at the University of Michigan, and that's where my father became a a real estate broker and started buying property. At Wayne, I met my future husband, and he was in pharmacy school. And we got engaged. When I went away to school, he really didn't want me to go away. But anyway, got engaged, but that didn't make my parents happy that he was Jewish and that he had a profession. They didn't think he was good enough. Not really. 27 years. I have wonderful children. My daughter, Debbie, and my son, Ron, and I have 4 grandchildren. I would do it all over again. Life for me now is actually peaceful. I have no one to argue with. And I really treasure every day. And I'm involved a lot of things. I keep busy. I'm grateful that I survived. Millions of children did not. Well, it's affected my life by me being a volunteer and trying to give back. I lost many relatives in the Holocaust, 2 sets of grandparents, aunts, uncles, but I had 5 aunts that survived, and I had a favorite aunt that lived in New York and Florida, and I would visit her all the time, and my children were able to have another family. My granddaughter is in Poland and Germany as we speak with her rabbi. She lives in Brooklyn to gain more knowledge because her grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and my children, Ron and Debbie, Debbie is going to carry the torch when I cannot, and I hope that my grandchildren in general will be very interested. I go to Holocaust conferences. I've been to about 10 at least. Well, I'd like them to be aware of what's happening in the world today, to see the similarities of what was going on in Germany, to be knowledgeable. If they see something, say something. Don't be a bystander. There were so many bystanders during the Holocaust. And most importantly is to vote, because that's where we have our power, but with knowledge. myths for centuries that even are relevant today. I've had experience myself when I lived in Chicago, and my daughter was only 5 years old, and we had a Polish neighbor, and it came Passover time, and the little girl came over and she said, "Are you going to take my blood to make your matzah?" So where does she get that? I do. I really do. I try to give that calling also to my children and my grandchildren, talking about voting and being aware of what's happening, and me talking about the Holocaust Center, the beginning that I'm talking about. I hope I make an impression on my audience at the Holocaust Center or wherever I speak, because I could stop speaking if I felt like it, but I never will stop. Never.